Medicare is an incredibly popular program. There's a reason for it. You can't be turned down. You can't be kicked out if you get sick when you're in Medicare. You can take it anywhere you want to in the United States of America. Cost goes up 2% above the rate of inflation. But the cost of private insurance goes up 2.5 times the rate of inflation. Free markets don't work in healthcare. That's not a blanket statement, but they don't work in the healthcare insurance industry. You come to me, as many of you know, I'm a physician. Instead of, this is not like buying a Ford or a house. You come to me, I tell you what you're going to buy, and we send the bill to a third party. You're going to have to go some to fix this. And the HSAs and all that are all very nice, and they'll get people to not go see the doctor if they think they're going to get over, if they get over a cold and they wait a few days. That's not where the money is in healthcare. It's not whether you see the doctor for something that's cost you $100 or not. It's the $30,000 and $40,000 and $50,000 operations. That, and you're not going to have a big say. I practiced for 10 years. I never had anybody with crushing substernal chest pain get up off my table and say, "Excuse me, doctor, the guy down the street does it $2,000 cheaper. I'll see you around." Markets generally don't work in healthcare, and when they do, the incentives are all screwed up. I get paid. The more I do stuff, whether you need it or not, I get paid more. Fee-for-service medicine. The more I do, I get paid. And you don't have much say about it, because if I tell you you need it, you're probably going to get it, especially if you have a really bad disease. We need to fundamentally change this system. And my question about the public option is, if everybody over 65 has it, and it's vastly popular, if all the people in the armed forces who have served in the armed forces of the United States of America have socialized medicine, which is what the VA is, and it's the #1 healthcare system in America, private or public, in terms of patient satisfaction, then why can't we have a choice to get into one of those systems? Why do we have to get stuck with an insurance company that takes 20% out of every dollar that we pay in and gives it to somebody else, whether it's investors, CEOs, advertising, or bureaucracy? That is why we need a public option.
Carl has a response before Doug goes on.
Yeah, look, Medicare has a rejection rate of nearly 3 times as high as the average for private insurance companies on procedures. Second of all, I agree with you that we need more transparency in pricing. There was a study done in Milwaukee under the Bush years where we looked at the costs of hospitals, 13 hospitals in Milwaukee. There was no relationship between quality and price. And there was no consistency of price. That is to say, an operation might be $1,200 for one of the 20 most common procedures at this hospital, and 3 miles away, it might be $12,000. We need more market, more transparency. What we do know is that when patients become consumers, they shop around and find the best quality care that meets their budgets. That's one of the big advantages of having a health savings account. It's not that it discourages you from getting care. It causes you to say, "Doc, what's this going to cost me? And what's the quality going to be connected with it?" And again, I repeat, we don't need more government. We need less government. We need more market forces. We need more enterprise. We need more choices. And the way we're going to get that is not by having the government narrow it. Take a look at Medicare. The most popular part of Medicare is Medicare Advantage, in which seniors can say, "I can take a little bit more money out of my pocket and get services which are not covered by Medicare." 1 out of every 4 seniors in America has it, and the program is 5 years old. Why? Because Americans are people who want to tailor their choices to their lifestyle and their circumstances, and Medicare Advantage gives them a chance to do it rather than one size fits all. Look, I've had to deal with Medicare. My dad died in 2004. You know when I finished finally cleaning up after Medicare and getting everything handled and paid? 3 years later. Dealing with Medicare was an utter nightmare. I know I had to go through it for about 8 years. And if anybody thinks that they just simply turn it over to the government is going to make it a heck of a lot easier, they're kidding themselves.
First of all, let me just say I don't have any problem with signing up for additional insurance over and above Medicare, and I think that's fine. That's part of the deal. But if you think dealing with Medicare is a nightmare, and I agree with Carl, it is. My dad died about 8 years ago. We had to do the same thing. Dealing with private insurance companies is a real nightmare. I practiced for 10 years. My wife still practices. I have never once had a Medicare bureaucrat come up and tell me I couldn't prescribe this and I had to switch this drug to something else. Happens every single day with private insurance. The problem is not government bureaucrats in between you and your doctor. The problem is insurance bureaucrats between you and your doctor, and they are there right now, and I'm sick of it, and I don't like to practice medicine like that.
So is the Medicare bureaucrat. You didn't hear me. They are 3 times as likely as private insurance companies to reject an application for payment. In fact, I think I may write about this in the Wall Street Journal next week.
I don't believe that.
It's Doug's turn.
Look, this is exactly what I've been talking about earlier. These guys are not talking about anything to do with principles, because Nice guys as both of them are, neither of them have any principles, okay?
Thank you. I feel
And
unvalidated.
Carl, this is, as a Republican, this is because Howard actually
Hey, I'm
has,
the only guy with gold on today. I got the gold right there, the
because
gold cufflinks.
Howard
Where's your
actually
gold? You don't even have cufflinks
Howard
on.
actually has principles, although they're very bad principles. But this is directed.
This is why the communists went after the Trotskyites, or why they went after the social labor guys, because they were
Carl,
afraid.
this is
Yeah.
directed
Hegemony
towards
of
you
the
because
right.
Exactly.
He's talking about getting government out of health care, and while he was in office, because he was pulling Bush's puppet strings, they passed the biggest thing since Medicare itself, which was this the drug thing. So,
Medicare prescription
right, exactly.
Part D.
Right, exactly.
Which is the only program of government health care enacted in the history of America that is running under its cost estimates. It's 40% less expensive
This is all
because it uses market mechanisms to deliver the benefit, not government.
This is that's all a lie, Carl.
No, it's not.
It
It's
is a lie.
absolutely true. If you
All
were
right.
in the United States
But
a little
the
bit more
point-
often, maybe you'd see that.
Here's the point I want to.
I'd be happy to email you the cost estimates from the CBO and then the actual outlets.
I know.
Despite the fact more people have signed up for it and more people are using it, because the market is involved in it and the market drives it rather than government.
It's going to be the one government program in history that's going to work. Okay, let me go back to what I was saying.
Because it uses the market.
Because it was passed by the Republicans.
No, because it uses the market.
The reason that the healthcare system in this country is so screwed up is because it started during World War II, when Roosevelt put on wage and price controls, and in order to acquire workers and keep workers, they couldn't pay them more money, so they gave them medical care, and it started getting people into the habit of thinking that somebody ought to pay for their medical care and take care of it. You know that bulbous guy,
Michael Moore.
Exactly. Yes. In that movie, he said quite correctly.
He likes foreign health care too.
No, listen to me. He said quite correctly that the average Cuban is healthier than the average American. And he's right. But it has nothing to do with the medical system. This whole debate is nonsense because the medical system is one thing and health is another. The average Cuban's healthier than the average American because he has a better diet, which means lower calorie and simpler unprocessed food, number one. And number two, he gets more exercise.
Yeah, because there's no transportation. He has to walk everywhere.
That's correct. But that's why the average, that's why.
Has to stand in lines all day.
This is my time.
It is your time. Take advantage of it.
That's why the average Cuban's healthier than the average American, despite the fact that their medical system stopped evolving back in 1960. You can't even get an aspirin in that damn country if you want. So this is all nonsense. There shouldn't be any government involvement in this at all. In fact, there shouldn't be any insurance companies' involvement in it. People didn't have insurance before World War II. And you want to know something?
Wait a minute.
You're all going to die sometime, and the average American is so corrupt at this point, he expects somebody to keep him alive with a tube up his nose, like a degraded dog that should die in the corner. It's not my problem, and it's not your problem if somebody doesn't save enough money to pay the doctors to keep him alive in a degraded state when he ought to die anyway.
So here's the original author of the death panels.
Well, you are going to have death panels in the future because there are two ways of allocating goods. One is by money and one is by political fiat. And it's going to happen that they are going to make decisions as to who lives and dies, not by who can pay for it or who can't.